trickery. The police have the power, or I should say, it is not unlawful for an officer to make false statements to a citizen on the street to get him or her to turn over contraband.
It would clearly be contrary to the spirit of the 77 law.
Absolutely. The whole point of the decriminalization law was that the police had better things to do. And, well, one of the points of it was that the police had better things to do. And this kind of arrest, I think, clearly runs contrary to that.
So what happens after you're arrested, rightly or wrongly, for marijuana possession? Most people, for their first offense, sit in jail for anywhere from 24 to 72 hours. All that time leads to an appearance before a judge, which usually lasts less than a minute. They're given a $25 fine and something called an ACD, adjournment in contemplation of dismissal. It means if you stay out of trouble for 1 year, the case is dismissed.
The problem is that for people who, for example, work for the Board of Education or people who have licenses for their jobs, this appears as an open criminal case and can affect their employment. This is also a problem for, I've had several clients who've been trying to join the military, and while they have this pending ACD, they're not allowed to join the military.
Also, if you're a legal alien and have a green card, an arrest can still lead to deportation. And someone getting federal student loans can see their college money disappear.
That doesn't make any sense. Why would we have a young person who's in school lose their funding for school as a result of something that we have all recognized at least to be something that's not even worth any sort of conviction on the first arrest?
But most people don't fight the charges or the ACD that sounds on the surface so appealing.
They practically forced me to take an ACD.
Did you want to take the ACD?
No.
What did they do to
Just have me come in the court for 2 years. You don't want to be losing a day job to go to court for practically no reason. So you're going to take the offer.
The overwhelming majority of people, even people who are completely innocent, like my client was, would take an ACD. People who can't miss, 10 days of work over the year. People who, have had other experiences with not just the criminal justice system, but other bureaucracies and feel like it's not worth it, you can't win, and they give up.
So most people don't fight the charges. And as for fighting the arrest, even if you know your rights and the law,
in the moment, very little you can do. Very little our clients can do in the moment to avoid that arrest.
And remember that $25 fine you might face? Sounds reasonable, but
every conviction, even for marijuana, comes with a surcharge, which is a court processing fee. And that is $120 on violation cases and $200 on misdemeanor cases. And if you don't have the money for all of that, you get a warrant. You get an arrest warrant, and you can be rearrested on the street, in your home, wherever the warrant squad finds you, and be brought back forcibly into court.
There's nothing that the police can do that gets as many new people, new teenagers and young people into the system, getting the ID on them, as the broad net of the marijuana arrests.
So that one joint you pulled out of your pocket can impact you for years. We and the other major players profiled in this story spoke with a number of NYPD officers to try and find out why the department arrests so many people. None would speak on camera, but two names were frequently mentioned. Mayor Rudy Giuliani, under whose leadership the quality of life arrests began, and Mayor Michael Bloomberg, who himself admitted he not only tried marijuana in his younger days, but liked it. Our experts and some officers say both mayors encouraged the police to keep up the crackdowns, even to the dismay of some cops.
There's no possible way that New York City is making 36 or 40,000 marijuana arrests a year, that individual cops are doing this on their own initiative. The police department is a military-like organization. It is a top-down organization.
And according to a University of Chicago study, Levine cites, the arrests don't even do what they're intended to do.
Not only do the marijuana arrests not reduce crime, they probably increase crime. Mainly because they take police off the street. Secondly, sending police out to hunt for low-level drug offenders and marijuana arrests also means that their attention and gaze is focused elsewhere than on other kinds of crime.
But Levine says some officers love the pot busts. They're easy to make. They're clean. Suspects are unlikely to fight or throw up and create headaches that other arrestees might. And they leave police relatively free to roll to any emergencies that might pop up. They're also easy additions to the arrest count. That looks good on police stats. And there's one other reason Levine names: overtime.
The major way to get overtime is to make an arrest toward the end of one's shift. And marijuana arrests serve that function terrifically well. Not only do the ordinary police get overtime, but their supervisors get overtime from it.
Numbers, the attorneys say, may also help explain why prosecutors keep pressing the cases. Even an ACD comes in as a conviction, and the courts benefit as well. Those $120 or $200 processing fees, multiply that by 40,000 arrests, and the courts bring in more than $5 million a year from cases that take all of 60 seconds to complete.
The court system benefits, a lot out of each person who takes a violation, out of each person who takes a misdemeanor.
And if each actor in the process has a reason to keep the arrests and prosecutions coming, even though the man who wrote the law says doing so violates the spirit of that law, then what about the search for justice? The search that police, prosecutors, and judges are all sworn to seek.
I think that the collateral consequences of marijuana possession convictions, even ACDs, are just so disproportionate to the so-called offense of possessing marijuana that this can't be justice.
For possession of marijuana, justice is a term that I don't think it's defined as we find it in the dictionary.
Several times during our investigation, we sought an interview with officials from the New York City Police Department, but were not able to get one. The NYPD did, however, provide a response to our story from a deputy commissioner. Here are some of the key portions of that reply. That the accusation is, quote, an old saw used by advocates for marijuana legalization to mislead the public. Also that the report erroneously claims that the infractions were violations, not misdemeanors. And it concludes the NYPD arrests by race comport with the race of complainants. In other words, the vast majority of individuals calling the police to complain of people smoking marijuana in their building doorway, for example, are themselves minorities. We're responding to the community.